In this video, we're going to talk about the east side versus the west side. I've helped out a lot of you over the last few years when you're relocating over here. And on our initial Zoom consultation call or phone call, one of the more common questions is, what is the difference between the cities on the west side like Seattle versus kind of the east side corridor closer to Bellevue? In this video, I'm going to dissect the differences because it does feel like two different places to live in a lot of different aspects. So I'm going to go through all of those reasons why the west side is a little bit different from the east side and what to expect in each of these locations. So stay tuned. As always, I'm Bryce Greenleaf, local real estate agent here in the greater Seattle area. I love helping you guys out. Those of you that contact me here from YouTube when you're moving over to the Seattle area, or if you already live here and you're looking to purchase a home, I'd be more than happy to help you out. But like I said, we're going to talk about the west side versus the east side. This is Seattle and its nearby surrounding suburbs versus Bellevue and its nearby surrounding suburbs. Now, talking about the downtown areas here just a little bit before we expand to the nearby suburbs, they are two very different feels. And I have people that come over here all the time, and when we start to tour these areas and look at where they want to live, they really always mention that Seattle and Bellevue, even though they're about 10 miles apart from each other, feel like two completely different worlds. Seattle has much more problems when it comes to homelessness and public drug use and crime and things like that, versus Bellevue is a much cleaner area. But there are also some pros to the Seattle area that Bellevue may not have. So I'm going to jump into a few different categories here and explain the differences between both of them so you can figure out which side might be better for your lifestyle. So number one of the more important aspects here are the home prices. Of course, when people are moving over here, they're looking at those home prices to see if they can afford to live where they want to. Now, the east side in general is definitely more expensive than the west side. In Seattle proper, the median home price is about $912,000. In Bellevue, its counterpart to the east, the median home price is closer to $1.7 million. If we look on the north side of these cities, north of Seattle, we have Linwood, which is a very popular suburb for people to move to. The median home price in Linwood right now is $825,000. Closer to the east side, if we move north of Bellevue, one of the more popular suburbs is Bothell. The median home price here in Bothell is about $1 million. There's a lot of people that weigh moving to Bothell or Linwood when they're kind of shopping in this general price range. They do have some differences, of course. Now, on the east side, you'll notice I skipped over some cities like Kirkland and Redmond. Those price points are very similar to what Bellevue is. They're going to be the mid 1 millions, 1.4, 1.5, kind of in that range. So to get a bit more of a break on that price point when you're on the east side is going to Bothell with that price point closer to $1 million. Now, if we go south here to two suburbs that are about the same distance from both Seattle and Bellevue, their counterparts here, we have Maple Valley, which is on the east side. The median price point in Maple Valley is $740,000. On the west side, we have Federal Way. Let's take this as an example. The median home price is $600,000. So you can see all along the west side corridor is a bit cheaper than you are on the east side corridor, no matter where you are. Now, there is a reason home prices on the east side are more expensive than the west side. Let's talk about the general aesthetic, the overall feel of these areas. The west side is going to feel much older, much more established neighborhoods. You have Seattle, which is much older than its counterpart there in Bellevue. And that's the same story for many of those cities. Those cities that are set on the west side on the Puget Sound, they are going to be much more older on average. So the neighborhoods, the homes are going to be quite a bit older as well. On the west side, like I mentioned, in Seattle, you are going to have more of those issues that some of the larger downtown issues struggle with, like public drug use and homelessness and graffiti and public trash, all that kind of stuff that Seattle really struggles with. That's not the theme on all the cities north and south on that west side. You know, that's not necessarily the theme in Linwood at all. Linwood is actually a pretty clean area. As you go south of Seattle, some of those cities, I mentioned the Federal Way, some of those other cities in there are going to suffer from some of the similar things, not to the scale that downtown Seattle is, but they will suffer from some of that. The west side is also a bit more artsy, especially when you're in Seattle. It's a bit more of an artsy culture. The demographic is typically a little bit younger. There's a lot of younger people, younger professionals that have moved into those areas, into those cities, taking jobs near downtown Seattle. And it's a bit more of an artsy culture. You have more cool, like hole-in-the-wall restaurants, like really niche spots that are really great places to go. And that's kind of the overall creative feel of that west side, and specifically Seattle proper. On the east side, it feels quite a bit different. It's more of a bougie atmosphere, especially when you're right in Bellevue. Some of the surrounding cities like Kirkland and Redmond and Issaquah, Sammamish, sometimes you get a little bit more of that bougie feel because it is so much more expensive. They have all the designer brands, all the high-end shopping centers. They have a ton of really great fine dining restaurants right there in Bellevue. As you go north into Bothell, as it becomes more affordable, it becomes less so, but it is still a clean area, a cleaner area than some of the west side counterparts, and Bothell has become a very desirable area because of that. And continuing down south, Maple Valley, like we talked about with the home prices, has that similar kind of theme as it would in Bothell. Very clean and well put together place, a desirable place to live. While it may have some artsy aspect for sure, it's not quite what the west side is. It's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say stale environment, but it's a little bit more of like a cookie cutter environment when it comes to homes and whatnot. And it is a little bit more, like I said, of a bougie environment, but it is a lot cleaner. The downtown areas are much more well maintained, cleaner neighborhoods, cleaner streets for the most part. And so it's a very nice area there on the east side, which is why those home prices are a little bit more expensive. Now we talk about the types of homes here. I talked about with the overall aesthetic. On the west side, you're going to have a lot of older neighborhoods. So you're going to have more character with these neighborhoods than you may on the east side for the most part. There's a lot of neighborhoods with early craftsman and colonial style homes, some cottages, some really beautiful neighborhoods that have just a ton of character as you drive through them. Very walkable neighborhoods, even without being right in downtown Seattle. You can be in some areas that are really walkable, like a Greenleaf. So in terms of real estate, there is more character there, and there's a lot less new construction than what you're going to find on the east side. As you go to the east side, because it is a newer area, you are going to find a lot more new homes, new build communities all over the place. So if you're focusing on new construction, the east side is going to have a lot more options for you than the west side would. There's still certainly older homes and older neighborhoods here on the east side with character, but not quite to the extent that those west side cities have, with some of those downtown area neighborhoods that have just some beautiful 120-year-old homes. Now let's talk about the recreation and what there is to do. Now, no matter if you're on the west side or the east side, you're going to be able to drive to and from everywhere. You can live on the east side and still get to the Puget Sound pretty easily. So this isn't to tell you if you're living on one side or the other, you don't have access to everything. It's just how close you are and maybe some views that you could have from your home. Of course, on the west side, we have the Puget Sound. So you're going to have absolutely gorgeous views from some points. Plenty of homes that have great sound views, panoramic views, absolutely beautiful spots. You also have access to those ferries to go on those day trips if you want to go over to the peninsula, over to the islands, and take some cool day trips on the ferry. That's certainly an easy possibility. On the east side, you're going to be more closer to the mountains and beautiful mountain range views, the Cascade Mountain Ranges. Now, there's some exceptions if you're living in Issaquah, Bellevue, Sammamish, you right on Lake Sammamish there, or Lake Washington. You have plenty of homes with water views of the lake. You also have a lot of homes that are out in nature, and it's going to feel like a very wooded area, a very mountainous home, very mountainous neighborhoods through the east side corridor, if that's something you're looking for, with just tall evergreen trees surrounding the entire neighborhood. And even though you may only have a quarter acre, half an acre lot size, you feel super private because you can't see any of your neighbors. There's a lot of neighborhoods like that as well. And because of this, of course, you have great access to trails for hiking and mountain biking. You can get over to the mountain passes really easily if you want to go skiing and snowboarding, you want to go snowshoeing. There's endless outdoor recreation opportunities around here. I mentioned the lakes as well. So if you have a boat, there's a number of lakes in these areas to take out, or just go visit the lake so the kids can go swimming, have a picnic, whatever the case is. There's a lot of outdoor recreation around these areas. And the last category I'm going to talk about here is the commuting. So on the west side, you have I-5 going to and from Seattle is where rush hour traffic is going to be the heaviest. I-5 gets very backed up on the weekdays during rush hour traffic. I'm sure you've heard that. So if you're going into Seattle in the morning and out away from Seattle in the afternoon, those are going to be your worst traffic times. I-5 does not have toll lanes. There's not the advantage there of being able to skip some of the traffic. They do have carpool lanes, So if you are driving with another person, or you're doing a group van driving type deal, or just two of you, you can use those carpool lanes to speed that up a little bit, but there is going to be a good amount of traffic, so just count on that if you're commuting in and out of Seattle. On the west side, we also have the light rail system. So this is our train system here, newly developed. They're still adding stops as we go further north and further south. But you can take this light rail station if you live outside of Seattle proper or in Seattle proper and you just want to commute around on the light rail. That goes north and south, pretty close to I-5 there. Right now it goes as far as Northgate, and it goes down to the airport. It's expanding in both directions. It's going to be going further north to Mountain Lake Terrace and Linwood are two of the next stops as well. So that's something you can take advantage of. We use that light rail system whenever I'm going down to a game down in downtown Seattle or something. We'll park the car at the light rail station and just take the train all the way down, so you don't have to deal with parking and all that kind of stuff. So that is one avenue you can take to kind of ease some of that commute and some of that frustration with going into Seattle. If you're on the east side, the main freeway there is I-405. So as it wraps around the east side of Lake Washington, takes you through Bothell and Kirkland and Bellevue down to Renton, and then meets back up with I-5. Now, I-405 does have toll lanes, so if you want to pay to use those lanes in heavier rush hour times, you certainly can do so to save some time on your commute. Depends what time you go and how expensive those lanes are. On the weekends, they're typically free. Late at night, they're typically free. You could pay $2 to use the toll lane. You could pay $10 to use the toll lane, depending on what time it is, how far you're going, those kinds of things. But that is an option if you want to try and skip some of that traffic, and it does help a little bit. You're still going to deal with traffic. There's still going to be a number of people in the toll lane, but it is going to save you a little bit of time on that rush hour commute. When it comes to that light rail system, it is expanding over to the east side. The stops aren't complete yet, but they will be soon. We've got Bellevue and Redmond it'll be stopping in. So for those that are commuting to and from the east side to west side, that will be an option as well to make the commute a little bit easier. All right, well, that wraps up the main differences here. Just in summary, the west side is going to feel quite a bit older. It's going to feel a bit more artsy, a bit more like hole-in-the-wall, cool restaurants. It's going to feel maybe a bit younger in demographic, at least when it comes to some of the downtown areas in Seattle proper neighborhoods, versus the east side is going to feel a little bit more of a bougie feel. It's going to feel definitely more clean in the downtown areas, a little bit more well put together. But both can be great places to live, just depending on your lifestyle and what you're looking for. As I mentioned, I am an active real estate agent over here, so if you're moving over this way or you already live here and you're looking to purchase a home, looking to find that right place that fits you best, that right neighborhood, that right city, that right home that fits you best, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you with that. Thanks for watching this one.